Technology hummed faintly in the background, but Dr. Elellanena Merryweather couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, the old ways work best. What no one realized was that this simple interaction, a country doctor treating an alien emperor with over-the-counter cold medicine, was about to spark a galactic upheaval in medical science, diplomacy, and, less significantly, Elellanina's plans to attend her book club on Thursday. They were finally discussing the delightfully trashy romance novel she'd secretly loved. Emperor Zix Beltrazin reclined comfortably under a tartan throw, breathing easier and sipping a mug of honey lemon tea. His temperature was stable, the greenish hue of his scales returning to their imperial shimmer, and he'd only caused one minor power surge during a sneeze while watching Antiques Roadshow, a program Mrs. Pembley, the host, insisted they watch together. "This is remarkable," the Emperor said reverently, gazing at the teacup. "Our archives contain no record of such effective treatment methodologies. It's just paracetamol and a decongestant," Elellanena replied, half amused by the alien's awe. "Nothing special." "On the contrary," the Emperor insisted. "Its elegant simplicity is what makes it special. Our medicine has become so sophisticated, nanotech this, quantum that, we've forgotten the fundamentals." Eleanor, who had canceled her appointments under the vague excuse of a family emergency, was now taking careful notes on the Emperor's physiology. "I suppose there's value in starting with the basics," she admitted. The Emperor leaned in, eyes glowing faintly. "Dr. Merryweather, I believe you may have saved not only my life, but the future of my civilization." Elellanena blinked. "From a cold?" "Not just any cold," he said gravely. "This is the first of many pathogens circumventing our nanotechnology. Our systems are so specialized that they fail to detect anything new." In our arrogance, we believed we had achieved a permanent medical solution. "Pathogens evolve," Eleanor said gently. "Medicine has to adapt. No cure is forever. That's why we have antibiotic resistance." The Emperor looked shaken. "This evolution, we've not accounted for it." "Then you've just rediscovered the first rule of biology," Eleanor replied, sipping her tea. "Everything adapts. My late husband Harold always said, just when you fix the tractor, the clutch gives out." The Emperor nodded solemnly. A philosopher of great wisdom. He was a stubborn goat, Mrs. Pembley said fondly, but he could patch a leaky radiator. "I've been thinking about what this means. First contact, aliens, humanity. Oh, we've been watching Earth for centuries," the Emperor said casually, waving a long-fingered hand. "You're listed in the Galactic Registry as promisingly chaotic. Tremendous potential, impressive levels of catastrophe." "You've been watching us fail, and just taking notes?" Eleanor asked. "Exactly," the Emperor said brightly. "Most civilizations self-destruct at your tech level. The fact you haven't is statistically remarkable." "Well," said Mrs. Pembley, "isn't that comforting?" The Emperor straightened. "Ah, that would be the High Council. I transmitted my coordinates when I began improving." "Wait, here? In Yorkshire?" Eleanor asked, stunned. "Indeed." Thomas looked horrified. "But the protocols. Humanity isn't ready." "Oh, hush, Thomas," Mrs. Pembley said, putting the kettle back on. "Do you think they'd like scones? I've got clotted cream." It resolved into 3 towering alien figures in elaborate robes. "Magnificent one," began the lead figure, stopping short at the sight of the cozy living room. "You are taking refreshments with the natives?" "High Counselor Vex Nithra," the Emperor said smoothly. "Allow me to introduce Dr. Elellanena Merryweather, whose treatment saved me." "And our gracious hosts, Margaret and Thomas Pembley." Mrs. Pembley gave a polite wave. "Lovely to meet you. Tea's nearly ready." Aliens sat awkwardly on floral print sofas, signing Mrs. Pembley's guest book, charming dwelling, and excellent scones. Eleanor gave an impromptu lecture on evolutionary medicine. Thomas continued alternating between panic and tea. You anticipate treatment failure? Vex Nithra asked, eyes wide. We don't aim for failure, Eleanor explained. But we know it's inevitable. Bodies change. Pathogens evolve. Medicine has to adapt. Fascinating, murmured the High Council's medical officer. We perfected a system to eliminate all threats. And it worked, said the Emperor. Until it didn't. Dr. Merryweather's approach is reactive, not rigid. And therein lies its brilliance. Small, gray, and apparently ordinary, except for the intense way it watched the room, tail flicking in thought. Had anyone been paying attention?
And Mrs. Pembley? She was baking a second batch of scones. After all, she said, if they're going to take over the NHS, they'd best do it properly. The sitting room was now cluttered with strange artifacts, sleek alien datapads humming quietly beside porcelain teacups, medical scanners propped up against doilies, and a glowing orb that politely refused to stop hovering over the biscuit tin. Dr. Elellanena Merryweather sat in her armchair, still in her cardigan, still holding a mug, and absolutely no closer to understanding how her small-town practice had become the epicenter of interstellar medical reform. You realize none of this makes any sense, right? She said to no one in particular. The orb above the biscuits beeped reassuringly. He had spent the night rewriting his CV for the 7th time. Objective: to not have a mental breakdown while aliens drink tea with my mum. Experience: 2025 present, accidental liaison to intergalactic civilization. He sighed and returned to the kitchen, where his mother was buttering scones. I've got another dozen cooling, she said. You think the one with the forehead ridges liked strawberry or apricot jam? I don't think it matters, Mum. He levitated the plate into his torso and absorbed it. Exactly. Can't be sure which he preferred. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Alien medical professionals were beginning to question their own systems. Demand for paracetamol had surged, despite half the galaxy not knowing how to metabolize it yet. A subcommittee formed on the spot, the Interstellar Council on Terrestrial Treatments. Its first act was to try and decipher a Boots pharmacy catalog. We believe the 2-for-1 offer is a form of economic ritual, the High Councillor noted gravely. I must confess, he said, this is the most peace I've experienced in centuries. Mrs. Pembley beamed. Well, it's the Yorkshire air. And the chamomile. It's also the only place in the galaxy where the head of a 17,000-world hegemony is being treated by a GP who drives a 10-year-old Vauxhall Astra, Eleanor muttered. We believe in local, the Emperor said simply, sipping. Not just a spy, the Emperor replied. He's the director of Galactic Intelligence. Mrs. Pembley gasped. Whiskers, you stole my tuna sandwich last week. Whiskers gave a subtle, shameful purr. Thomas stared, unblinking. I need to lie down. Earth was officially added to the Galactic Diplomatic Registry. Not because of military might. Not because of scientific discovery. Because a Yorkshire GP cured a space emperor with paracetamol. Because of tea. And because Mrs. Pembley's scones were described by at least one intergalactic dignitary as a transcendent culinary experience. Eleanor stood in the garden, staring up at the stars, watching as alien ships began descending discreetly to consult her. This is my life now, she muttered. Whiskers rubbed against her leg. He blinked twice. Then coughed up a data drive.